The rain hammered against the bedroom window like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the storm rage outside while my own internal storm raged within. Sarah had been gone for 3 days now, a work conference in Seattle that seemed to stretch on forever. The house felt too big, too empty, too quiet without her laughter filling the rooms. I'm Marcus Chen, 34 years old, a high school English teacher who thought he had figured out life. My classroom at Richmond High School was on the third floor, overlooking the football field where I'd once harbored secret crushes on teammates I'd never acknowledged, not even to myself. I taught advanced placement literature and regular sophomore English, and I was known among students as the teacher who actually cared, who would stay late to help with college essays, who believed that books could change lives. My own life had followed what I'd believed was the perfect trajectory. Good grades in high school, valedictorian, president of the debate team, star of the academic decathlon, full scholarship to Portland State University, where I'd majored in English literature with a minor in education. I dated women throughout college, though looking back now, I could see how those relationships had always felt like performances I was giving rather than genuine connections I was making. Then I'd met Sarah Thompson during my student teaching semester. She'd been working as a paralegal at a downtown law firm, and we'd literally bumped into each other at a coffee shop near campus. She'd spilled her latte on my shirt. I'd made a joke about it being the most exciting thing to happen to me all week, and somehow that had turned into an exchange of phone numbers and then a first date and then a relationship that had seemed so easy, so natural, so right. Or so I'd told myself, married for 6 years to Sarah, the love of my life, or so I believed. We had a beautiful home in suburban Portland, 2 cars in the garage, a golden retriever named Hemingway, and plans for children in the near future. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as it should be. Or was it? I rolled over, reaching for my phone on the nightstand. 11:47 p.m., too late to call Sarah, especially with the time difference. She'd be asleep by now, probably exhausted from another day of presentations and networking. I scrolled through our text messages instead, rereading the familiar words of affection she'd sent earlier. Miss you so much, babe, can't wait to be home tomorrow night, love you, Zoxa. Tomorrow night? Just one more day and then things would return to normal. The bed would be warm again, the house would smell like her lavender shampoo, and I could stop this restless feeling that had been gnawing at me all week. I set my phone down and closed my eyes, trying to will myself to sleep. But sleep was elusive, dancing just beyond my grasp like a dream you can't quite remember. My mind wandered, as it so often did these days, to places I didn't want it to go. There was Daniel Reeves, the new drama teacher who had started at Richmond High this semester. 31 tall with dark hair that always looked slightly tousled, as if he'd just run his hands through it. He had this way of looking at you when you spoke, really looking like every word you said mattered. We'd become friends quickly, bonding over our shared love of literature and theater. He directed the school plays, and I helped with script analysis and acting coaching. It was innocent, completely innocent. So why did I think about him at odd moments? Why did my heart do that stupid little skip when I saw him in the faculty lounge? Why did I find excuses to stop by his classroom after school? I pushed the thoughts away, feeling guilty even for having them. I loved Sarah. I was married. Whatever these feelings were, probably just the excitement of a new friendship. They didn't mean anything. They couldn't mean anything. The storm outside intensified, and I finally felt myself drifting off, thinking about tomorrow night when Sarah would be home and everything would make sense again. I woke with a start to complete darkness. The power must have gone out, the digital clock on my nightstand was blank, and the usual amber glow from the street lamp outside our window was absent. The storm was still raging, possibly worse than before. Disoriented, I reached for my phone to check the time, but my hand knocked it off the nightstand. I heard it clatter somewhere on the floor. Great. Then I heard it, the sound of the front door opening downstairs. Sarah, had she decided to come home early? My heart leapt with a mixture of relief and excitement. Maybe she'd missed me as much as I'd missed her. Maybe she'd caught an earlier flight and wanted to surprise me. I heard footsteps on the stairs, slow and careful in the darkness. The bedroom door, which I'd left slightly ajar, creaked open. Sarah, I called out softly. No answer, just the sound of someone moving toward the bed, probably as disoriented by the darkness as I was. I felt the mattress shift as someone climbed into bed beside me, the familiar weight, the warmth. Relief flooded through me. She was home. I'm so glad you're back, I murmured, reaching out in the darkness. And then arms were around me, pulling me close. The embrace was familiar yet somehow different, stronger, perhaps, or more urgent. I told myself it was because we'd been apart, because she'd missed me as much as I'd missed her. We kissed in the darkness and my mind registered something. The taste was different, the stubble against my face was rougher than Sarah's soft skin should be. But I was half asleep, confused by the storm and the darkness, and I rationalized it away. Maybe she hadn't been able to keep up with her usual grooming routine during her busy conference. Maybe I was just imagining things. The kiss deepened, became more passionate. Hands moved over my body with a familiarity that seemed earned through intimacy, yet there was something exploratory about it too, as if mapping new territory. I responded instinctively, my own hands discovering contours that felt both known and unknown in the strange alchemy of darkness and desire. What happened next happened in a blur of sensation and shadow. There was an intensity to it that surprised me, a raw urgency that our lovemaking hadn't had in months, maybe years. It was as if the distance had ignited something, reminded us of what we had, what we could lose. Afterward, we lay tangled together, both breathing hard. I felt different, shaken, somehow transformed by the experience. My heart was pounding not just from exertion but from something else, something I couldn't quite name. I started to say, but the words died in my throat. The person beside me stirred, and in that moment, lightning flashed outside the window, brilliant, blinding, illuminating the room for a single, eternal second. And I saw him. Not Sarah. Daniel. Daniel Reeves was in my bed. The world stopped, time fractured, every certainty I'd ever held shattered like glass. Marcus, Daniel's voice was hoarse, confused. Oh my God, Marcus. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Another flash of lightning and I saw his face clearly, the shock, the horror, the confusion mirroring my own. His eyes were wide, his lips parted as if to speak but no words coming. How? I finally managed, scrambling to sit up, pulling the blanket around myself. Jesus Christ, Daniel said, his voice breaking. I thought the address, I thought this was. We both started talking at once, voices overlapping in the darkness that had returned with the lightning's retreat. You need to leave, I said. I'm so sorry, he said at the same time. How did you even get in here? The door was unlocked, I thought. Why would you think? Marcus, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. My voice rose, panic setting in. You need to go now, Sarah will be home tomorrow and… Sarah, there was something strange in his voice. Marcus, Sarah isn't coming home tomorrow. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and ominous. What are you talking about? I demanded, my hands shaking as I felt around for my phone on the floor. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was gentle, careful, as if he were defusing a bomb. Marcus, Sarah asked me to come here tonight. She gave me the key code, she said you knew. The world tilted, nothing made sense. That's impossible. Sarah is in Seattle, she's at a conference, why would she? My fingers finally found my phone. I pressed the power button and the screen lit up, blindingly bright in the darkness. The time read 2:17 a.m. There were 7 missed calls, all from Sarah. And a text message sent an hour ago. Marcus, I'm so sorry, I couldn't tell you over the phone, I couldn't lie to you anymore. Daniel will explain everything, please forgive me, please try to understand, I love you too much to keep living this lie. I read the message 3 times, 4 times. The words remained the same, but their meaning kept shifting, reorganizing themselves into patterns that made less and less sense. I don't understand, I whispered. Daniel had found the bedside lamp. He tried to turn it on, but the power was still out. He used his own phone as a light, the glow casting strange shadows across his face. I think we need to talk, he said quietly. Really talk, there's so much you don't know, Marcus, so much Sarah should have told you but didn't know how. Start talking, I said, my voice cold, my entire body numb with shock. And so, in the darkness of my bedroom with the storm still raging outside, Daniel Reeves told me a story that would change everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and myself. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, careful to keep distance between us, his phone's light creating a small island of visibility in the dark room. I had pulled on a t-shirt and sweatpants, needing the armor of clothing, however flimsy. He was dressed now too. I had no memory of when that happened, just as I had no memory of how I'd ended up in this nightmare. 6 months ago, Daniel began, his voice steady but quiet. Sarah came to me, not at school, she found me at a coffee shop downtown. She knew who I was, knew I was teaching at Richmond High with you. I don't understand, how would she know you? She'd done research, a lot of research. He took a deep breath. Marcus, she said she needed my help. She said her marriage was falling apart and it wasn't your fault or hers. It was because of something she'd realized about you, something you hadn't realized about yourself yet. I felt like I was falling, even though I was sitting perfectly still. What are you talking about? She showed me things, journals you'd written in college before you met her, searches on your computer you'd immediately cleared, the way you looked at certain men when you didn't think anyone was watching. She'd been cataloging it for years, Marcus, trying to understand, trying to decide what to do. The room spun. That's insane. Sarah wouldn't. I'm not. She loves you, Daniel interrupted gently. That's what made it so hard for her. She said you were the best man she'd ever known. Kind, funny, intelligent, loyal, everything she'd ever wanted in a partner, except. Except what? The words came out as barely a whisper. Except she could tell you weren't attracted to her, not really, not in the way a husband should be attracted to his wife. She said your intimacy had become mechanical, scheduled. She said you were going through the motions and it was killing both of you slowly. I wanted to protest, to deny everything, but the words caught in my throat. Because somewhere deep inside, in a place I'd refused to look, I knew there was truth in what he was saying. She asked me, Daniel continued, to be your friend, to get to know you, to see if her suspicions were right. She'd figured out that I was gay. She's very observant, your wife. She thought maybe if you got to know someone openly gay, someone you could be yourself around, you might start to understand yourself better. So this was all a setup, anger flared through my shock. Our friendship was fake. No, Daniel said firmly. God no, Marcus, when I met you I told Sarah I couldn't do it. I couldn't pretend to be your friend just to spy on you or manipulate you into some kind of revelation. But then, he paused, and even in the dim light I could see emotion flicker across his face. Then I actually got to know you, and you were nothing like what I expected. You were genuine and funny and passionate about literature and teaching and making a difference in kids' lives. Our friendship became real very quickly, maybe too real. What do you mean? He looked away. I started having feelings for you, real feelings, which I definitely was supposed to do. Sarah had been clear this was about helping you understand yourself, not about me developing an actual attraction, but I couldn't help it, and the more time we spent together the more I saw the signs she'd seen. The way you'd catch yourself looking at me and then look away quickly. The way you'd find excuses to be near me. The way your eyes would light up when I walked into a room. Stop, I said, just stop. This is crazy. I'm married. I love Sarah. I've never been with a man, Daniel finished. Consciously acknowledged your attraction to men? No, I don't think you have, because you've spent your whole life building this perfect image of who you're supposed to be. The good son, the successful professional, the devoted husband. And somewhere along the way you convinced yourself that's who you actually are. Tears were streaming down my face now, though I hadn't felt them start. So what was tonight? Some kind of test? Did Sarah orchestrate this whole thing? No, Daniel said quickly. God no, Marcus, what happened tonight? That wasn't supposed to happen. Sarah texted me 2 hours ago, said she was coming clean, ending the marriage. She said she couldn't live the lie anymore, that it wasn't fair to either of you. She told me to come check on you, make sure you were okay, help explain if you needed explanation. But I got turned around in the storm and my GPS glitched and I ended up at the wrong house. I thought I was at 1847 Maple, not 1847 Oak. The front door was unlocked because of the power outage and I came upstairs in the dark, completely disoriented and you thought you were at your own house? I asked, confused. No, I thought, God, this is going to sound insane. He ran his hand through his hair. I thought I was at Brian's house, my ex-boyfriend. We'd been texting earlier and he said if the power went out from the storm his place would be unlocked. Same address, number, different street. I thought he was expecting me. The pieces started to fall into place, creating a picture even more surreal than I'd imagined. So you thought the person in the bed was your ex-boyfriend? In the complete darkness, yes, Brian and I have been trying to work things out. We were supposed to meet tonight, and you, he hesitated, you thought I was Sarah. We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of what had happened settling over us like a heavy blanket. This is insane, I finally said. This is absolutely insane. I know. I need you to leave. I need to think. I need to, my voice broke. I need you to go, Daniel. He stood up, but before he could move toward the door his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression changed. "It's Sarah," he said. "She's asking if I found you, if you're okay." "Tell her I'm fine," I said bitterly. "Tell her I'm just peachy. My wife orchestrated a friendship with a gay man to prove I'm gay too, then ended our marriage via text message while I accidentally slept with said gay man thinking he was her. Everything's fantastic." "Marcus. Just go, Daniel, please." He hesitated at the door, and in his phone's light I could see genuine concern and pain on his face. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen, and your friendship, our friendship, that was real, that is real, regardless of everything else." After he left, I sat in the darkness for a long time, listening to the storm gradually subside outside. My phone kept buzzing, texts from Sarah probably, but I couldn't bring myself to look, not yet. Instead, I sat there and forced myself to think about things I'd been avoiding for years. Memories I'd pushed down, feelings I'd dismissed, moments I'd rationalized away. Like the time in college when I'd kissed my roommate during a drunken party and felt more alive than I ever had with any girlfriend. I told myself it was just experimentation, just the alcohol. Like the way I'd always found excuses to avoid intimacy with Sarah, claiming stress or exhaustion when the truth was something I couldn't face. Like the dreams I'd had, dreams I'd woken from with shame and confusion, dreams featuring men instead of women. Like the way my heart had raced the first time Daniel touched my shoulder casually, just a friendly gesture that had felt like electricity. As dawn broke and the power flickered back on, I finally looked at my phone. There were 15 messages from Sarah. I read them all, my hands shaking. The last one, sent just minutes ago, simply said, "I know this is the worst way to find out the truth, Marcus, but maybe it's the only way. You've been living a lie for so long that you couldn't see it anymore. I couldn't watch you suffer anymore. I couldn't keep pretending we could make this work. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be yourself, whatever that means. I'm staying with my sister for a while. Take all the time you need. I'll always love you, just not in the way either of us tried to force it to be. S." I put the phone down and walked to the bathroom, seeing my reflection in the mirror for what felt like the first time. The same face I'd seen every day for 34 years, but somehow different now. As if a mask had been removed, revealing someone I didn't know how to recognize. Someone who might be gay. Someone whose perfect life had been a carefully constructed illusion. Someone who had no idea what happened next. Part 3, picking up the pieces. I called in sick to work the next day, and the day after that. Principal Morrison was understanding. I told her there was a family emergency, which wasn't exactly a lie. My entire family life had imploded overnight. For 3 days, I barely left the house. I ignored calls from Sarah's family, from our mutual friends, from everyone except my sister Anna, who drove up from Eugene the moment I told her what had happened. "Jesus Christ, Marcus," she said, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in her hands. I don't even know what this is." "A disaster," I supplied. "The word you're looking for is disaster." Anna studied me with those piercing blue eyes we'd both inherited from our mother. She was 2 years younger than me but had always seemed older, wiser, more grounded in herself. "Are you angry at Sarah?" she asked. "Yes, no, I don't know." I dropped my head into my hands. "I'm angry at the way she did it, the manipulation, the secrecy, the text message ending of our marriage, but I'm also—" I struggled to find the words. "I'm also grateful, maybe, is that crazy, to be grateful that my wife orchestrated this elaborate scheme to prove I'm gay." "Are you," Anna asked quietly, "gay?" The question hung in the air, the question I'd been asking myself nonstop for 72 hours. "I don't know," I admitted. "I mean, what happened with Daniel? That was the most intense physical experience I've ever had, more than anything with Sarah, more than anything with anyone else. But was that just the situation, the darkness, the confusion, the adrenaline?" "You've been friends with him for months," Anna pointed out. "Have you been attracted to him?" I closed my eyes, finally letting myself examine the truth I'd been avoiding. "Yes. God, yes, but I kept telling myself it was just admiration, or that I was projecting, or that I was going through some kind of early midlife crisis." "And before Daniel, have there been other men?" The memories came flooding back, the ones I'd spent years burying. The swim team captain in high school who had claimed to hate but who had spent all my time thinking about. The The TA in my sophomore English seminar whose smile made my heart race. The barista at my favorite coffee shop who had gone out of my way to see every morning until I forced myself to switch locations because I was getting too dependent on caffeine. Yes, I whispered, there have been other men, I just never let myself acknowledge what I was feeling. Anna reached across the table and took my hand. Hey, look at me. I met her eyes. There's no timeline for this, she said. There's no rulebook that says you have to have everything figured out right now. You can be confused, you can be scared, you can be angry at Sarah while also acknowledging she might have been right. You can be attracted to men and still have loved Sarah. None of this has to make sense yet. But what do I do? I asked, hearing the desperation in my own voice. How do I go back to work and face Daniel? How do I explain to Mom and Dad that my perfect marriage is over? How do I even begin to understand who I am if everything I thought I knew was wrong? One step at a time, Anna said. First step, stop hiding in this house. Second step, talk to Daniel. I can't face him. God, Anna, what happened between us? Happened, she finished. And you can't unhappen it, but from what you've told me, it sounds like he's as confused and messed up about this as you are. Maybe talking to him would actually help. Or make everything worse. Maybe, but staying in this limbo isn't helping either. She stayed for 2 more hours, helping me clean the house, making me eat actual food, forcing me to shower and change clothes. Before she left, she hugged me tight. I love you, big brother, no matter what. Gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, whatever, you're still Marcus. You're still my annoying older brother who corrected my grammar all through high school. None of that changes. After she left, I stood in my living room and realized she was right. I couldn't hide forever. Tomorrow, I'd have to go back to work. I'd have to face Daniel, face the rumors that would inevitably start about why Sarah had suddenly left, face the reality of my imploding life. But tonight, I had one more thing to do. I picked up my phone and before I could second-guess myself, sent Daniel a text. Can we talk coffee tomorrow after school? The response came almost immediately. Yes, anywhere you want, thank you for reaching out. I set the phone down, my heart pounding. It was just coffee, just a conversation, just two friends or whatever we were now trying to make sense of an impossible situation. What could possibly go wrong? The coffee shop Daniel had suggested was 20 minutes from school in a neighborhood where we wouldn't run into students or colleagues. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. I got you a vanilla latte, he said as I sat down. I remembered that's what you usually get in the faculty lounge. Thanks, I wrapped my hands around the cup, grateful for something to hold on to. For a long moment, we just sat there, not quite looking at each other. The easy camaraderie that had developed over the past months was gone, replaced by an awkwardness so thick you could cut it with a knife. I'm sorry, we both said simultaneously. Despite everything, I almost smiled. You first. Daniel took a deep breath. I'm sorry for my role in Sarah's plan. Even though I didn't know what happened that night would happen, I should have been more honest with you from the start. When she first approached me, I should have told you instead of agreeing to, I don't know, spy on you, befriend you under false pretenses. But you said the friendship became real, I reminded him. It did, Marcus, that's the God's honest truth. By the second time we hung out, I'd completely forgotten about Sarah's request. I was just myself, and you were yourself. And we clicked in this way that felt rare and genuine and important, which is why I felt so guilty when I started having feelings for you that went beyond friendship. And your ex-boyfriend Brian, I said, you and he were trying to work things out. Were, past tense. Daniel stared into his coffee. I ended things with him 2 days ago, after everything. It wasn't fair to him. The truth is, I'd been holding on to that relationship because it was familiar and safe, but my heart wasn't in it anymore, not after getting to know you. My pulse quickened. Daniel. I'm not saying this to pressure you or make this more complicated, he said quickly. I just need to be honest, that's been the problem, hasn't it? Everyone keeping secrets, hiding the truth, pretending. I'm done with that. I took a sip of my latte, buying myself time to think. I talked to my sister. She made me think about things I've been avoiding my whole life, and I realized that Sarah wasn't entirely wrong in her observations. There have been men I was attracted to even before you, I just never let myself acknowledge it. Because you thought you were supposed to be straight, Daniel asked gently. Because I thought I was straight, I corrected. It wasn't even a conscious decision to hide who I was. I genuinely believed I was attracted to women, that I loved Sarah the way a husband should love a wife. It's only now, looking back, that I can see all the signs I missed or chose not to see. So what does that mean for you moving forward? I set down my cup and finally met his eyes directly. It means I have a lot to figure out about myself, my identity, what I want from life. It means I need time and space to understand who I am when I'm not trying to fit into some predetermined mold of who I should be. That makes sense, Daniel said, and I could hear the disappointment under his understanding tone. But, I continued, it also means that what happened between us that night, it wasn't just the darkness or the confusion. Even before I saw your face, there was something about it that felt more right than anything I'd experienced before, and that scares the hell out of me. Daniel's expression shifted, hope flickering across his features. I felt it too, that rightness, like we fit together in a way that made sense even when nothing else did. I'm not ready for a relationship, I said quickly. I'm technically still married, even though Sarah and I both know it's over. I'm just starting to understand a fundamental truth about myself. I can't just jump from one relationship into another, especially when I don't even know what I'm jumping into. I understand, Daniel said. And I don't want to be a rebound or an experiment or whatever, but Marcus, I also don't want to lose your friendship. These past months getting to know you, talking about books and teaching and life, that's been the best part of my days. Can we try to preserve that at least? I considered his question carefully. Could we be friends after everything that had happened? After the accidental intimacy, the complicated feelings, the web of secrets and revelations? I want to try, I said finally, but I need you to be patient with me and honest. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas. If you're feeling something, tell me. If I'm doing something that crosses a line, tell me. We need to rebuild whatever this is from the ground up with complete transparency. I can do that, Daniel said, and maybe we could start by just hanging out like we used to, getting lunch, discussing books, being friends. I'd like that, I said, and realized I meant it. We spent the next 2 hours in that coffee shop, talking more openly than we ever had before. Daniel told me about coming out in college, the struggles with his family who'd eventually come around, the dating disasters and relationship triumphs that had shaped who he was. I told him about my childhood, growing up in a conservative household where certain topics were never discussed, the pressure to be perfect that had driven so many of my life choices. By the time we left, something had shifted. The awkwardness hadn't completely disappeared, but it had been replaced by something more solid, a foundation of honesty that hadn't existed before. As we walked to our cars, Daniel turned to me. Hey Marcus, thank you for giving me a chance to explain, for not hating me, for being willing to try to salvage our friendship. Thank you for being honest, I replied, about everything. He hesitated, then asked, do you know what you're going to do about Sarah, about the divorce? Not yet, I need to talk to her, really talk to her, not through text messages or intermediaries, we owe each other that much at least. When you do talk to her, tell her, I said thank you too. Thank you for what? Daniel smiled, sad but genuine, for loving you enough to let you go, for seeing what you couldn't see in yourself. It took a lot of courage for her to do what she did, even if the way she did it was messy and imperfect. As I drove home that evening, I thought about his words. Sarah had loved me enough to let me go, to force me to face a truth I'd been running from my entire life. That took a kind of strength I was only beginning to appreciate. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Hi, I said. Hi, her voice was thick with tears. Can we talk? Yes, I said, I think we really need to. Sarah came to the house the next evening. She looked different, thinner, tired, with shadows under her eyes that suggested she'd slept about as much as I had over the past week. We sat in the living room on opposite ends of the couch with miles of emotional distance between us. I'm sorry, she said, the words tumbling out before I could speak. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry, the way I did this, the text message, the whole thing with Daniel, it was cruel and manipulative, and you deserved so much better. Yeah, I said, I did, but I also understand why you felt like you had to do it that way. I wouldn't have listened otherwise. She looked up at me, surprise in her red-rimmed eyes. You're not angry? Oh, I'm furious, I assured her. but I'm also grateful, and confused, and hurt, and relieved. I'm feeling about 17 different things at once, and most of them contradict each other. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. That sounds about right. Sarah, how long have you known about me? She was quiet for a moment, thinking. I started suspecting about 3 years into our marriage. Little things at first, the way you'd pull away during intimate moments, the mechanical way you'd touch me like you were following a script. Then there were the things I found, your old journals, the browser history you'd cleared but not quite thoroughly enough, the way you'd look at certain men when we were out together. Why didn't you say something? Because I loved you, she said simply. And I thought maybe I was wrong, maybe I was being paranoid or insecure, maybe if I just tried harder, if I was more attractive or more adventurous or more whatever, things would change. But they didn't, they just got worse. And I realized I was being selfish, keeping you in a marriage where you couldn't be yourself. Tears were streaming down both our faces now. I loved you too, I said. I still do in a way, you were my best friend. The word came out as a sob. I corrected. God, Sarah, I don't know, everything's so confused right now, but what we had, it was real even if it wasn't quite right. You were there for me through everything. Graduate school, my father's death, the struggle to find a teaching job, those years meant something. But not enough, she whispered. Not in the way we needed them to, I agreed. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. 6 years of marriage, 8 years together total, all of it falling apart and reforming into something we didn't quite understand yet. Tell me about that night, Sarah said eventually. With Daniel, I need to know. So I told her everything. The storm, the confusion, the darkness, the moment of recognition, the crushing weight of realization. She listened without interrupting, her face a mask of pain and empathy and something else, maybe relief. I never meant for that to happen, she said when I finished. I just asked him to check on you, to help explain if you needed explanation. The fact that he ended up in the wrong house in your bed, that was pure chaos. Chaos, that might have been the catalyst I needed, I admitted. If it had just been you leaving and Daniel explaining, I probably would have denied everything, gone right back into defensive mode. But what happened that night? I couldn't deny that, I couldn't rationalize it away. And now, do you think you're gay? The question I'd been asking myself constantly. I think I might be, or maybe bisexual. I'm not entirely sure what label fits or if I even need a label. I just know that I've been attracted to men my whole life and suppressed it. And that what I felt with you, what I thought was romantic and sexual attraction, was really just deep friendship and affection. She nodded slowly. That makes sense. Marcus, I want you to know I never doubted that you cared about me, that you tried to make our marriage work. You were always faithful, always kind, always trying. The problem was never your effort, it was that you were trying to be something you're not. What happens now, I asked, with us? I've already talked to a lawyer, she said quietly. We'll need to file for divorce. It can be amicable, no fault, no blame. We split everything fairly and go our separate ways. The house is yours, she said firmly. I never felt at home here anyway. It was always more your space than mine. I'm moving back to Seattle. I got offered a promotion at the firm there and I think I need a fresh start. Seattle, I repeated, feeling the finality of it. That's far. It needs to be, she said. Marcus, I love you, I probably always will, but I can't be your friend right now. Maybe someday after we've both healed and moved on, but right now, seeing you, talking to you, it just reminds me of everything we lost, everything we never really had. I understood even though it hurt. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too, she stood up, gathering her purse. There's one more thing I need to say. What? Daniel cares about you, really cares about you, not as part of some plan or scheme, that's real, and I think you care about him too, even if you're not ready to admit it yet. She paused at the door. Don't let fear keep you from being happy, Marcus. You've already wasted enough time living a lie, don't waste any more. After she left, I sat alone in the house that was now truly mine, thinking about everything she'd said. About Daniel, about happiness, about wasting time on fear. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. How did it go with Sarah? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Hard but necessary, want to grab lunch tomorrow. Always same place as last time. Actually, how about somewhere closer to school? I'm tired of hiding. There was a pause. Then, yeah, I'd like that. See you tomorrow, Marcus. That night, I pulled out an old journal from college, one I'd buried at the back of my closet years ago. I read through pages of confused thoughts and suppressed feelings, observations about men I'd found attractive but refused to acknowledge, pages and pages of denial wrapped in self-justification. Then I got out a new notebook and started writing, not about the past but about the present, about who I was, who I wanted to be, and the tentative first steps I was taking toward figuring all of it out. The rumors started at school within days. Sarah and I had kept our split quiet, but in a small faculty community, secrets had a way of leaking out. Suddenly, people were whispering in the halls, conversations would stop when I entered the faculty lounge, and I could feel the weight of speculation following me everywhere. "Let them talk," Daniel said when I complained about it over lunch at a new restaurant near school, one where we sat at a table in full view of the windows instead of hiding in corners. "Their opinions don't matter. Easy for you to say, you came out years ago, you're comfortable with who you are. And you think that means I don't still face prejudice, comments, people making assumptions?" He leaned forward. "Marcus, being out doesn't make you immune to judgment, it just means you've decided their judgment matters less than your authenticity." "I haven't decided anything," I protested. "I'm still figuring this all out." "Are you?" Daniel asked gently, "or are you just scared to commit to what you already know?" I wanted to argue, but the truth was he was probably right. Over the past 3 weeks since Sarah left, I'd done a lot of soul searching. I'd read books about sexuality and identity, joined online forums for people questioning their orientation, even found a therapist who specialized in LGBTQ plus issues. Everything I'd learned, everything I'd examined pointed to the same conclusion: I was gay. I'd probably always been gay, I just hadn't let myself see it. But knowing something intellectually and accepting it emotionally were two different things. "My parents are coming to visit next month," I said, changing the subject. "For Thanksgiving, they don't know about Sarah yet or about anything." "Are you going to tell them?" "I have to, don't I? I can't just pretend everything's fine when my wife has moved across the country." "But will you tell them the whole truth?" I stabbed at my salad without answering. My parents were good people, educated, liberal in some ways, but they'd also spent 34 years believing their son was straight, married, living the conventional life they'd always imagined for him. How would they react to learning it had all been a lie? "I have an idea," Daniel said. "There's a PFLAG meeting next week. Parents, friends, and family of lesbians and gays. It's a support group for people with LGBTQ plus family members. Maybe you could attend, get a sense of how other families have dealt with coming out stories." "I'm not out," I pointed out. "Aren't you?" He gestured around the restaurant at us having lunch together in broad daylight. "Marcus, you're having lunch with an openly gay man 3 times a week. You're going to gay-friendly coffee shops and bookstores. You're reading queer literature in the faculty lounge. Maybe you haven't made some big announcement, but you're not exactly hiding either." He was right, I realized. Without consciously deciding to, I'd been coming out in small ways. Little by little, I was letting people see a version of me that was more authentic than the one I'd been presenting for years. That evening, I called my sister Anna. "I think I need to tell Mom and Dad," I said without preamble. "About Sarah. About everything, about why Sarah left, about me being gay." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Are you ready for that?" "I don't know, but they're coming for Thanksgiving and I can't lie to them. I can't keep pretending." "Do you want me there when you tell them?" Anna asked. Moral support. "Would you?" "Of course, you're my brother, I've got your back always." The PFLAG meeting Daniel had suggested was held in the basement of a local church. I almost turned around 3 times on the way there, but finally forced myself to go inside. Daniel met me at the door, having come separately so I wouldn't feel pressured. "You don't have to stay if you're uncomfortable," he whispered as we took seats in the circle of folding chairs. "This is just to observe, get information." The meeting was led by a woman named Janet whose son had come out 10 years earlier. She went around the circle, asking people to share their stories, parents whose children had come out, siblings supporting their LGBTQ plus family members, even a few people who'd come out later in life like I was doing. An older man, probably in his 50s, spoke about coming out after 20 years of marriage and 3 kids. "I thought I was protecting everyone by staying closeted," he said, "but I was just making us all miserable. My ex-wife knew something was wrong, my kids could sense the tension. When I finally told them the truth, it was hard, really hard. but it was also the beginning of actual healing. A teenage girl talked about her brother coming out as gay, how their parents had struggled initially but eventually came around. They just needed time to adjust their expectations, she said. Once they realized he was still the same person, just happier and more authentic, they were able to accept it. After the meeting, Daniel and I sat in his car in the parking lot, neither of us quite ready to leave. That helped, I admitted, hearing other people's stories, knowing I'm not the only one who's dealt with this. You're not, Daniel assured me. There are thousands of people who have come out later in life who spent years thinking they were straight. You're not alone, Marcus. I turned to look at him, really look at him. In the dim light from the parking lot, I could see the concern in his eyes, the genuine care. He'd been so patient with me these past weeks, giving me space while also being there whenever I needed him. Never pushing, never demanding, just present. Daniel, I said softly, I need to tell you something. Okay, he said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. That night when we were together, you asked if I felt it too, that rightness. I remember. I did, I still do. When I'm with you, I feel more myself than I ever did with Sarah, more comfortable, more authentic, more alive. I took a deep breath. I think I'm falling for you, and it terrifies me. His eyes widened. Marcus. I know I said I needed time. I know I said I wasn't ready for a relationship, and I'm still not really, but I also can't keep pretending that what I feel for you is just friendship. It's more than that. It's been more than that for a while. Daniel was quiet for a moment, and I could see him processing, thinking carefully about how to respond. I'm falling for you too, he finally said. I have been for months, but Marcus, you need to be sure, not just about me but about yourself, about who you are and what you want. I don't want to be the person you're with just because I'm convenient or because I was there when you were figuring things out. You're not, I said firmly. God, Daniel, you're not convenient, you're complicated and challenging, and you make me think about things I'd rather avoid. But you're also kind and funny and passionate about the things you care about. You make me want to be braver, more honest, more myself. He reached out and took my hand, and the simple touch sent electricity through me. So what do we do? I don't know, I admitted. But maybe we could try something? Slowly, I need to tell my parents, finalize things with Sarah, figure out who I am as a gay man instead of a closeted one. But through all of that, I'd like you to be there, not just as my friend but as more. More, Daniel repeated, and a smile broke across his face. I like the sound of more. We sat there for a long time, hands clasped, talking about what more might mean. We agreed to take things slow, to keep being honest with each other, to not put pressure on defining what we were before I'd had time to fully come out and heal from my marriage. But we also agreed to stop pretending we were just friends. Because the truth was, we hadn't been just friends for a while now, we were something else, something new, something neither of us quite knew how to name yet. And somehow that felt exactly right. Part 7, Thanksgiving Revelations. The week before Thanksgiving, I could barely concentrate on teaching. I kept rehearsing different versions of coming out to my parents in my head, each one sounding worse than the last. Should I tell them as soon as they arrived, wait until after dinner, send a letter in advance to give them time to process? You're overthinking this, Daniel said during one of our now daily lunch dates. We'd started calling them dates, tentatively, testing out the word and what it meant. Of course I'm overthinking it, that's what I do. Your parents love you, they'll struggle with it probably, but they'll come around. You don't know that. You're right, I don't, he admitted. But I know you, and I know that hiding who you are is killing you slowly. You've been lighter these past few weeks, more yourself, don't lose that just because you're scared of their reaction. He was right, of course. Ever since I'd stopped denying my sexuality, stopped trying to force myself into a mold that didn't fit, I'd felt different, freer somehow, even though I was also terrified about what that freedom meant. My parents arrived on Wednesday afternoon. My dad, Robert Chen, was a retired accountant, logical, precise, not overly demonstrative with his emotions. My mom, Patricia, was a former elementary school teacher who made up for my dad's reserved nature with her warmth and expressiveness. They were good people, supportive parents, but deeply traditional in many ways. Where's Sarah? My mom asked as she set her bags down in the guest room. I thought she'd be here to greet us. Actually, we need to talk about that, I said, my mouth going dry. We gathered in the living room and I could see them both tense up, sensing bad news. Sarah and I are getting divorced, I said, deciding to start with the simplest fact. My mother gasped. My father's expression remained neutral, but his jaw tightened. What happened? Mom asked. Was there someone else? No, nothing like that, it's complicated. Complicated how? My father pressed. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating for weeks. I took a deep breath and forced myself to speak the truth. I'm gay. The words hung in the air like a grenade waiting to explode. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stood up abruptly, turned away, then sat back down. What do you mean you're gay? Mom finally asked. You've been married for 6 years, you were with Sarah for 8, how can you suddenly be gay? It's not sudden, I said. I've been gay my whole life, I just didn't let myself acknowledge it. I thought I was straight because that's what I was supposed to be, but I was wrong. This doesn't make sense, my father said, his voice tight. You were happy with Sarah, we saw you together, you loved her. I did love her, I still do in a way, but not the way a husband should love a wife. I was living a lie, Dad, one I didn't even know I was living until recently. Recently, my mother's voice rose. Marcus, how long have you known? How long have you been lying to us? I wasn't lying, I protested. I genuinely believed I was straight. It's only in the past month that I've been able to admit the truth to myself. My father stood up again, this time moving toward the window. His back was rigid, his hands clenched at his sides. Robert, my mother said softly, but he didn't turn around. I need some air, he said and walked out of the room. I heard the front door open and close. My mother and I sat in silence, the weight of his reaction pressing down on us. He just needs time, Mom said, but her voice wavered. This is a lot to process. Are you okay with it? I asked hesitantly. She turned to look at me, really look at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. I don't know, Marcus, I love you, you're my son, that will never change, but this is… I don't understand, I thought I knew you, and now you're telling me I didn't know you at all. You did know me, I said desperately. I'm still the same person, I just understand myself better now. But you lied to Sarah, you let her marry you when you were gay, how could you do that to her? I didn't know, the words came out louder than I intended. Mom, I wasn't consciously hiding anything from her, I thought I was straight, I thought what I felt was normal. It wasn't until she left that I was forced to confront the truth. She left you because you're gay. She left me because she figured it out before I did, because she loved me enough to set me free, even though it broke her heart. My mother was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I just wanted you to be happy, you and Sarah seemed so happy. We seemed happy because we were both pretending, I said quietly, but neither of us was truly happy, not really, not in the way we deserved to be. Anna arrived an hour later as we'd planned. She found my mother in the kitchen, mechanically preparing vegetables for tomorrow's meal, and me on the couch, staring at nothing. My father still hadn't come back. How bad? Anna asked. Pretty bad, I admitted. She sat down next to me, bumping my shoulder with hers in that familiar sibling gesture. Give them time, they'll come around. What if they don't? Then that's their loss, but I don't think it'll come to that. They're shocked right now, probably a little betrayed feeling, but they love you, that'll win out. My father returned as the sun was setting. He didn't say anything, just went straight to the guest room and closed the door. At dinner, a strained, silent affair, he barely looked at me. That night lying in bed, I texted Daniel. It went as badly as I expected, maybe worse, my dad won't even look at me. His response came quickly. I'm sorry, want me to come over? I thought about it, the comfort of having him there, the way his presence made everything feel more manageable. But this was something I needed to handle with my family without outside interference. Not tonight, but thank you, knowing you're there helps. Always, I'm here whenever you need me. I fell asleep holding my phone, taking comfort in the knowledge that even if my parents couldn't accept me, someone could, someone did. Thanksgiving morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn chill that made you believe the world could be fresh and new. I woke early, unable to sleep, and found my mother already in the kitchen preparing the turkey. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. No, I poured myself coffee, uncertain whether I was welcome in this space where she was working. Come here, she said softly, help me with this stuffing. We worked side by side in silence for a while, the familiar rhythm of holiday preparation creating a fragile bridge between us. Your father is struggling, she finally said. I noticed. Not with you being gay, she clarified. With feeling like he failed as a parent somehow, like he should have known, should have seen the signs, should have created an environment where you felt safe to be yourself earlier. I looked up, surprised. That's not. I never felt unsafe. You and Dad were great parents. This isn't about you. Try telling him that, she sighed, wiping her hands on her apron. Marcus, your father grew up in a very different world. His parents were traditional Chinese immigrants who had very specific ideas about family and success and what it meant to be a man. He spent his whole life trying to reconcile those expectations with being American, with giving you and Anna the freedom to be yourselves. And now he's wondering if he succeeded or failed. He succeeded, I said firmly. Mom, I don't blame you or Dad for me not coming out earlier. I didn't know I needed to come out. I had so thoroughly convinced myself I was straight that there was nothing for you to see or respond to. But were you happy? All those years with Sarah, were you truly happy? I thought about it carefully. I was content. I thought that's what happiness was supposed to feel like, comfortable, stable, predictable. I didn't know there could be more. And now, with this Daniel person Sarah mentioned. My face must have given me away because she smiled sadly. She called me last week, warned me you might be bringing someone around. She wanted me to be prepared. I wasn't planning on bringing Daniel to Thanksgiving, I said quickly. It's too soon, too complicated. I wanted to tell you about me first before introducing the idea of a new relationship. But there is a new relationship. Maybe possibly we're taking things slow. She set down the spoon she'd been using and turned to face me fully. Marcus, I need you to understand something. This is hard for me, not because I don't love you, I love you more than anything, but because I'm grieving. I'm grieving the life I thought you'd have, the grandchildren I imagined, the future I'd constructed in my head. I know that's selfish, but it's how I feel. Tears stung my eyes. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for being who you are, she said fiercely. But also understand that I need time. I need time to adjust my expectations, to learn about this part of you, to figure out how to be the mother you need me to be. You're already the mother I need, I said. You're here, you're talking to me. That's more than I hoped for. She pulled me into a hug, and for the first time since my confession, I felt like maybe things might be okay. Anna arrived around noon with her girlfriend, Melissa. I watched my parents' reactions carefully. They'd always been accepting of Anna's sexuality, welcomed Melissa into the family without hesitation. Why was my situation different? As if reading my mind, Anna pulled me aside. It's not about you being gay, she said quietly. It's about you being married to a woman for 6 years first. That's what they're struggling with, the fact that they didn't know, that Sarah didn't know, that you didn't even know. It makes them question what else they don't know about their own family. I didn't lie on purpose. I know, and they'll figure that out too, just give them time. My father remained distant through most of the day, making polite conversation but avoiding any real interaction with me. It hurt, but I tried to give him the space he seemed to need. Then, as we were cleaning up after dinner, my phone rang. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. Without thinking, I answered. Hey, I said, stepping into the hallway for privacy. Hey, how's it going? Complicated, but better than yesterday. How's your Thanksgiving? Quiet, I'm at my parents' place in Salem, but I might head back to Portland tonight. They're being themselves. I heard the weariness in his voice. Daniel's relationship with his parents was cordial but strained. They'd accepted his sexuality intellectually but never quite embraced it emotionally. Do you want to meet up later? I asked. Maybe grab a drink or something. You sure? I don't want to intrude on family time. You wouldn't be intruding, I could use a friendly face. We made plans to meet at a bar downtown and I hung up feeling lighter. Just knowing I'd see him later made the awkwardness with my parents more bearable. When I returned to the living room, I found my father standing by the window, staring out at the darkening sky. That was Daniel, I said, deciding to be completely honest. Your boyfriend, he didn't turn around. We're not really using labels yet, but yes, someone I'm seeing. Finally, he turned to face me. His eyes were red and I realized with a shock that he'd been crying. I don't know how to do this, he said, his voice breaking. I don't know how to be your father anymore.
Dad,
Let me finish, he held up a hand. For 34 years I thought I knew my son, I knew what you liked, what you wanted, who you were, and then you tell me that I was wrong about something fundamental, that you're not who I thought you were, and it makes me wonder, what else don't I know, what else have you been hiding? I haven't been hiding anything, I said desperately. Dad, I'm still me, I still love teaching, I still call you every Sunday, I still make the same terrible puns that drive everyone crazy. The only thing that's changed is that now I understand why I was never quite happy with Sarah, why something always felt like it was missing. But you were with her for 8 years, 8 years, Marcus, how could you not know? Because I didn't want to know, the words exploded out of me. Because being gay wasn't part of the plan, it wasn't part of the perfect life I was supposed to build, so I ignored every sign, every feeling, every moment of doubt. I convinced myself I was straight because that's what I needed to be. Why? He asked, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. Why did you think you needed to be straight? Because of you, I hadn't meant to say it, but the truth came pouring out. Because I watched you work so hard to give me and Anna everything. Because I knew how much you'd sacrificed, how much you'd struggled to build this life. And I wanted to make you proud. I wanted to be the perfect son, good grades, good career, good marriage, good life. Being gay didn't fit into that picture. My father stared at me, and for a long moment neither of us spoke. You thought being gay would disappoint me, he finally said. Wouldn't it? Marcus, he crossed the room and for the first time in 20 years pulled me into a tight hug. You could never disappoint me, never, do you understand? I don't care if you're gay or straight or whatever other labels exist. You're my son, that's all that matters. I clung to him, tears streaming down my face. Then why have you been so cold? Why won't you even look at me? Because I'm ashamed, he admitted. Not of you, of myself, because I raised a son who felt like he couldn't be himself, because I apparently created an environment where you thought you had to be perfect, because I failed to show you that my love was unconditional. You didn't fail, I said. Dad, you were an amazing father, you are an amazing father. My issues, they're not about you, they're about me and my own fears and the expectations I put on myself. We stood there for a long time just holding each other. When we finally pulled apart, my mother and Anna were standing in the doorway, both crying. Family hug, Anna declared, and we all came together in a messy, tearful embrace. Later that evening, I met Daniel at the bar as planned. He took one look at my face and smiled. It went better, he observed. Much better. My dad and I talked, really talked. It's not perfect and there's still a lot to work through, but it's a start. I'm glad. He reached across the table and took my hand, not hiding the gesture even though we were in public. You deserve to have your family's support. Speaking of support, I said, my parents want to meet you, not tonight but soon. They want to understand this part of my life. Daniel's eyes widened. Are you sure you're ready for that? No, I admitted, but I want to try. I'm tired of keeping parts of my life separate. I want them to know the person who's been helping me figure all of this out. The person you're falling for? Daniel asked with a slight smile. The person I've already fallen for, I corrected. We stayed at that bar for hours talking about everything and nothing. About our families, our fears, our hopes for the future. And when we finally left, Daniel walked me to my car and kissed me, really kissed me, not in the darkness or in secret but right there under the streetlights where anyone could see. I'm falling for you too, he said against my lips, in case that wasn't clear. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, hope, pure, uncomplicated hope for the future. December arrived with a cold snap that turned Portland into a winter wonderland. School was winding down for the semester, finals were approaching, and I was simultaneously the happiest and most exhausted I'd ever been. Coming out to my parents had opened a floodgate. I'd come out to colleagues, to old friends, to people I hadn't talked to in years who suddenly needed to know this thing about me. Some reactions were wonderful surprise but immediate acceptance. Others were less so. A few old friends from college stopped responding to my messages, and one colleague requested a schedule change so we wouldn't have to share lunch duty. Their loss, Daniel said when I told him about it. We were at his apartment, which had become a refuge for me, a place where I could be completely myself without worrying about who might see or what they might think. I know, intellectually I know that, but it still hurts. Of course it hurts, but Marcus, look at what you've gained. You're living authentically, you're happy, I can see it in you. You smile more, you laugh more, you're more present. That's worth more than some fair weather friends. He was right. The past month had been transformative. I joined a local LGBTQ plus support group, started attending events in the gay community, made new friends who understood this part of me. I'd also been working with my therapist on unpacking all the internalized homophobia I'd carried for decades, learning to accept myself without shame or reservation. And then there was Daniel. We'd been officially dating for 6 weeks now, taking things slow but steady. He'd met my parents properly, a nerve-wracking lunch that had gone better than expected. My father had grilled him about his teaching philosophy, my mother had shown him embarrassing childhood photos, and Anna had given him the protective sibling speech. By the end, they'd all agreed he was a keeper. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, pulling me out of my reverie. "How much has changed? 3 months ago, I was married to Sarah, convinced I was straight, living this neat, compartmentalized life. Now I'm divorced, living as an openly gay man and dating you. It feels surreal." Good surreal or bad surreal? Good, definitely good, but also scary. What if I'm moving too fast? What if I'm using you as a crutch while I figure myself out? What if? Marcus, Daniel interrupted gently. "Stop spiraling, yes. You're figuring yourself out? Yes, this is all new, but that doesn't make what we have any less real. I'm not a rebound or an experiment. I'm a person who cares about you and who you care about in return. Can we just let that be enough for now?" "Enough," I repeated, testing the word. "Yeah, that can be enough." We kissed, slow and sweet, and I marveled at how natural it felt. How right. With Sarah, intimacy had always required effort, conscious decision-making. With Daniel, it was as easy as breathing. "I love you," I said, and then immediately panicked. "Sorry, that was too soon, I shouldn't have." "I love you too," Daniel said, laughing. "Marcus, I've loved you since about 2 weeks after we met. I just didn't let myself acknowledge it because you were married and presumably straight and completely unavailable." "You loved me when I was married." "I loved who you were, yes, even when I thought nothing could ever happen between us, even when I was trying to set you up with your own wife." He shook his head. "The whole situation was absurd, honestly, but I think Sarah saw what was happening between us before either of us did. Maybe that's why she orchestrated that whole mess." "Do you ever talk to her?" I asked. "Sarah. Number should I?" "I don't know, maybe she played a huge role in both our lives, in us being together. Part of me thinks we owe her something." "What would we say?" I thought about it. "Thank you, maybe, for being brave enough to blow up our lives so we could find our way to each other." "That's one way to look at it," Daniel said dryly. A week later, Sarah called me. It was the first time we'd spoken since the divorce had been finalized a month earlier. "Hi," she said, and I could hear nervousness in her voice. "Hi," I replied, gesturing to Daniel to give me privacy. He kissed my forehead and left the room. "How are you?" Sarah asked. "I'm good, really good actually. How are you?" "Good too, the new job is great, Seattle is great, I'm dating someone." "Yeah," I felt a surge of happiness for her. "Tell me about them." "His name is Michael, he's a lawyer at a different firm. We met at a networking event. He's kind and funny and he makes me laugh. And Marcus? I actually feel attracted to him, like really attracted in a way I never quite felt with you." "I'm glad," I said sincerely. "You deserve that. You deserve someone who can love you the way you need to be loved." "So do you," she said quietly. "Are you with Daniel?" "Yeah, we've been dating for a couple months now." "Good, that's good, Marcus. I need to apologize again for the way I handled everything. The manipulation, the secrets, the text message divorce announcement. You deserved better." "Water under the bridge," I said. "Sarah, what you did, it was messy and painful, but it was also necessary. I wouldn't have figured this out on my own. I would have kept denying it, kept trying to force myself to be someone I wasn't. You loved me enough to force me to face the truth. That took courage." "Or cruelty," she said with a bitter laugh. "Maybe both, but I'm happy now, truly happy in a way I don't think I ever was with you, and you're happy with Michael, so maybe it all worked out the way it was supposed to." We talked for another hour, carefully rebuilding a friendship from the ashes of our marriage. It wasn't the same, it could never be the same, but it was something. A connection, a shared history, a mutual understanding that we'd both survived and come out better on the other side. After I hung up, Daniel came back into the room. "How was it?" "Good, weird but good. She's dating someone, she sounds happy." "How do you feel about that?" "Relieved, mostly, and grateful that we can talk without anger or resentment. She'll always be important to me in a way." She was my first real adult relationship, my partner for 8 years. That doesn't just disappear because the romantic part didn't work out. You're very mature about this, Daniel observed. Or I've just had good therapy, I said with a laugh. As Christmas approached, my life had settled into a new normal. I was out at work, out to my family, out to myself. Daniel and I were still taking things one day at a time, but there was an easiness to our relationship that suggested permanence. We'd already started talking about moving in together once my lease was up, about what a future might look like, about the life we could build together. One evening, as we were decorating his Christmas tree, Daniel turned to me with a serious expression. I have a question, he said. Okay, I replied, feeling a flutter of nervousness. That night, the night we accidentally ended up together, do you ever regret it? Not just what happened between us, but everything that came after. The end of your marriage, the chaos, the pain. I thought about it carefully, looking at the string of lights in my hands, at the half-decorated tree, at the man standing in front of me. No, I said finally, I don't regret it. It was the catalyst that led me here, to this moment, to this life, and I wouldn't trade this life for anything, not even the perfect, comfortable, safe life I thought I had before. Good, Daniel said, relief evident on his face, because I don't regret it either, not for a second. We kissed there among the Christmas decorations, and I thought about how strange life was. How a single night, a single moment of confusion in the darkness could change everything. How what seemed like a disaster could actually be the beginning of something wonderful. 6 months later, I stood in Daniel's apartment, our apartment now, helping him button his shirt for the Richmond High School Drama Department's end-of-year gala. We decided to go public as a couple tonight, arriving together at a school function for the first time. You're nervous, Daniel observed, watching me fumble with the buttons. Terrified, I admitted. What if people react badly? What if parents complain? What if they don't care as much as you think they will? Daniel interrupted. Marcus, you've been out for months now. Most people already know. This is just making it official. I know, I still can't quite believe this is my life, that I get to love you openly, that I get to be myself without hiding. Get used to it, Daniel said, kissing me softly, because I'm not going anywhere. The gala was held in the school auditorium, decorated by the drama students with impressive flair. As Daniel and I walked in together, I felt a moment of panic. Everyone was looking at us. But then I realized they weren't staring with judgment or shock. They were just looking, noting our arrival the way they'd note any couple walking in together. Principal Morrison approached us with a smile. Daniel, Marcus, so glad you could make it. The students have been working so hard on tonight's showcase. We wouldn't miss it, Daniel said, his hand finding mine casually. I'm glad to see you both so happy, Morrison said, and there was genuine warmth in her voice. You're good for each other. Throughout the evening, we mingles with colleagues, parents, and students. Some people asked questions, always polite, mostly curious. Others just accepted our relationship as a fact and moved on. It was, in many ways, wonderfully anticlimactic. Mr. Chen, a voice called out, and I turned to see Sarah approaching. My breath caught. I'd known she was in town visiting family, but I hadn't expected to see her here. Sarah, I said, then realized she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, tall with kind eyes. Michael. In the flesh, he said with a friendly smile, extending his hand. I've heard a lot about you. Nothing too damaging, I hope, I replied, shaking his hand. Only good things, Sarah assured me. She turned to Daniel. It's good to see you again, Daniel. You too, Daniel said, and surprisingly, he sounded like he meant it. We stood there, the four of us, in a configuration that should have been awkward but somehow wasn't. Sarah and the man she was building a life with, me and the man I'd accidentally found in the darkness. This is weird, right? Sarah finally said. This should be weird. It's definitely weird, I agreed, but also kind of perfect. We all ended up where we needed to be. Marcus, my mother's voice cut through the crowd. She and my father were making their way toward us, and I braced myself for the moment when they'd see Sarah and Michael. But my mother just smiled, hugged Sarah warmly, and introduced herself to Michael. My father shook Michael's hand and asked about his work. It was civil, friendly even. As if this were the most natural thing in the world, divorced couples and their new partners gathering at a school function. Later, as Daniel and I drove home, I found myself marveling at how far we'd all come. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked, reaching over to take my hand. About that night, I said, the storm, the darkness. The confusion, how one moment of chaos led to all of this. Do you think things happen for a reason? Daniel asked, or do we just make meaning out of chaos? I think, I said slowly, that we were both stumbling around in the dark, literally and metaphorically, and we found each other by accident. But what we chose to do after that wasn't an accident, that was us deciding to be brave, to be honest, to build something real. I like that, Daniel said, the idea that we get to choose what comes next. So what do we choose? I asked. He pulled into our parking spot and turned to face me. I choose this, us, every day for as long as you'll have me. Forever then, I said, I choose forever. We sat in the car for a moment longer, hands clasped, thinking about everything that had led us to this point. The lies and truths, the darkness and light, the ending that had been a beginning. Hey Marcus, Daniel said as we got out of the car. Yes. I love you. I love you too. As we walked into our apartment, I thought about the Marcus from a year ago. The one who thought he had life figured out, who believed in his perfect marriage and his straight identity and his carefully constructed world. That Marcus would have been terrified of who I'd become. But this Marcus, the real Marcus, the one who'd been hiding beneath layers of denial and fear, this Marcus was finally, completely, utterly happy. Epilogue 2 years later. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting my tie for the third time. Behind me, Daniel appeared, already dressed in his own suit, looking annoyingly perfect. You need to relax, he said, reaching around me to fix my tie properly. It's just dinner. Just dinner, I repeated, with both our families and Sarah and Michael to announce our engagement, no pressure. When you put it that way, it does sound intimidating, Daniel admitted with a grin. We'd gotten engaged 2 weeks earlier during a weekend trip to the coast. Daniel had proposed at sunset on a quiet beach, the ring simple and perfect. I'd said yes before he'd even finished asking. Now we were hosting a dinner to share the news officially with everyone who mattered. My parents, Anna and Melissa, Daniel's parents who had gradually warmed to our relationship, and yes, even Sarah and Michael who had become unlikely friends over the past 2 years. What if your parents don't approve? I asked, voicing my last remaining fear. Then they'll get over it, Daniel said firmly. Marcus, we've already faced the hard parts. We've already survived coming out, divorce, judgment, fear. A dinner party is nothing. He was right, of course. We'd weathered so much together. I'd fully come into my identity as a gay man, finding community and confidence I'd never had before. I'd finalized my divorce from Sarah amicably, and we'd managed to maintain a genuine friendship. I'd repaired my relationship with my parents, who now treated Daniel like the son-in-law he would soon become. The doorbell rang and I took a deep breath, ready. Always, Daniel said, kissing me quickly before we went to answer the door. The evening went better than I'd hoped. Everyone celebrated our engagement with genuine joy. Even Daniel's father, who had been the slowest to accept our relationship, raised his glass in a heartfelt toast. To Marcus and Daniel, he said, may you build a life filled with honesty, love, and the courage to be yourselves. Later, as people were leaving, Sarah pulled me aside. I'm really happy for you, she said. Both of you, you deserve this. Thank you, and thank you for being here, for being part of this. I know it's unconventional. So is everything about our story, she said with a laugh. Marcus, I meant what I said before. You being happy makes me happy, even if the path to get here was completely insane. Speaking of insane, I said, I heard you and Michael are getting married too. She held up her left hand, showing off a ring I hadn't noticed before. Next spring, and yes, before you ask, you and Daniel are invited. After everyone left, Daniel and I collapsed on the couch, exhausted but content. We're getting married, I said, still marveling at the idea. We are, Daniel confirmed, having second thoughts. Not even for a second. I turned to look at him, this man who had accidentally walked into my life on a dark, stormy night and changed everything. I was thinking about that night again, how lost I was, how confused, how I thought I was reaching for one life but found something completely different. Any regrets? Daniel asked, though I could tell he already knew the answer. Not one, I said. That night I thought it was my wife in my bed. I thought I knew exactly who I was and what my life was supposed to be, but the truth changed everything. And I'm grateful for every moment of chaos and confusion that led me here.
To me.
To us, I corrected. To this life we've built, this truth we're living, this love that started in darkness but thrives in the light. Daniel pulled me close and I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling completely at peace. The storm had passed long ago, but what it had revealed, the truth about who I was, who I loved, who I was meant to be, that had been worth every moment of chaos. In the darkness, I'd found myself. In the confusion, I'd found clarity. In the ending, I'd found a new beginning. And in Daniel, I'd found home.